The first rule among the rules of Noon Sakinah and Tanween is Idh-har, which we call it Idh-har halqi. What is the meaning of Idh-har? Literally, Idh-har means clear. So it's to make something clear. And technically, it means pronouncing every letter from its articulation point as you learned it. So you don't change anything in the letter. That means whenever you find one of the letters of Idh-har comes after Noon Sakinah or Tanween, you have to pronounce the Noon Sakinah clearly. And you have to pronounce the Tanween clearly without changing anything. So what are the letters of Idh-har? The letters of Idh-har are 6 letters. Hamza ha, Ayn ha, and Ghayn kha. They are called al-hurufu al-halqiyya, which means the throat letters, because they all come out of the throat. Okay? So we have Hamza ha come from the deepest part of the throat, which is here. So the articulation point of Hamza ha is this part. You say a, you say ha. And Ayn ha come out from the middle part of the throat, which is here. So we say a, say ha. They both come out from the middle part of the throat. And we have the nearest part of the throat, which is Ghayn kha. Repeat after me. Gha and kha. You find it comes out from here, which is the nearest part of the throat. So the 6 letters come out from the throat. That's why they are called the throat letter. So whenever you find one of the throat letters comes after Noon Sakinah or Tanween, you will make them clear. Now let's take examples. Now we will take examples for each and every letter of the throat letters when it comes after Noon and when it comes after Tanween as well. So you can understand both clearly with each of them. Let's start from the deepest part and go onwards. So we said the deepest part from the throat, which is here, we have Hamza ha. So if Hamza comes after Noon or after Tanween, you have to make the Noon clear and you have to make the Tanween clear, such as Man aman, Man aman. The Noon here is very clear. Why is that? We say it as we learn it. Because Noon here is followed by a Hamza, which is one of the throat letters. That's why we say that the Noon clearly as we know it. Example with Tanween is Jannatin alfafa, Jannatin alfafa. These kasratan is Tanween, as we learned that. So these are followed by a Hamza, which is the alif here. So we make the Tanween clearly. Jannatin, we produce the sound of Noon Sakinah. Why is that? Because this rule is clear. Idh-har, because it's followed by a Hamza. The second letter is ha, because we said from the deepest part, Hamza ha. Man hajar. This is a ha, comes after Noon. That's why we make the Noon clear and we don't change anything in it. Man hajar. And an example of a ha when it comes after Tanween is Jurufin har. Jurufin har. This fin, we say it as a Noon, complete Noon and very clear Noon. Why is that? Because it's followed by a throat letter, which is ha here. Jurufin har. Now in the middle part of the throat, we have Ayn ha. Ayn ha. An example of Ayn after Noon is Min alaqa. Min alaqa. We say the Noon here very clearly because it's followed by a Ayn, which is one of the throat letters. So if someone is saying Min alaq, oh, like this, he's hiding the Noon, which is very wrong, because Noon here, its rule is Idh-har, which means clear, because it's followed by a throat letter. Now, let's take an example of Ayn when it comes after Tanween. When Allah says, Wasi'un alim, you see this un, I'm not saying wasi'un alim or anything of that. We say the tanween clearly as a noon sakina, which is the original sound. Wasi'un alim. And why is that? Because it's followed by ayn, and ayn is one of the throat letters. An example of a ha after noon is man haddallah. You see, I say man had. Man had. Can we hide this noon? So if someone is saying man had, is he right or wrong? Yes, you're right, he's wrong, because we cannot hide this noon. This noon is clear, so we have to make it very clear. Man had. Why? Because there is a ha, which is one of the clear letters, comes after a noon. So we say the noon clearly. An example of a ha after tanween is Azizun Hakim. Azizun Hakim. Same as we mentioned with the noon, we make the tanween here very clear because it's followed by a throat letter, which is ha. So we say Azizun, and we cannot say Azizun or any other way because ha is one of the throat letters. Now let's mention some examples with the two letters that come out from the nearest part of the throat, which is here, and the letters are ghain, kha. When Allah says min ghayr, this min, why do we make it clear? Good job, because it's followed by a ghain. Yes, and ghain is one of the throat letters. Good job. So we make the noon here clear or not? Very clear. So again, we make the noon here clear because it's followed by a throat letter, which is ghain. An example of a ghain after tanween, the saying of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, qawlan ghayra. Qawlan ghayr. So qawlan, this lan is very clear as you see. Why? Because it's followed by a throat letter, which is a ghain, so we have to say it clearly. Now the last letter is a kha. When a kha comes after noon sakina or tanween, we still make the noon clear and the tanween clear. I'm making sure that I repeat that with every single letter so you can memorize it easily and you can remember it whenever you see it. And we will also mention more examples when we go to the practicing part after this. So now, let's mention the examples with a kha. Man khashiya. When we say man khashiya, so this noon is clear because it's followed by a kha, which is one of the throat letters. So we have to make it clear. If someone hide it and say man khashiya, you need to stop him and tell him no, this one should be clear because it's followed by a kha, and kha is one of the throat letters, so that makes this rule idhhar halqi, which means clear. An example of a kha after tanween is the saying of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, latifun khabir. Latifun khabir. You see, I'm thinking fun. I'm not saying latifun khabir like that. I'm making the fa here followed by the sound of tanween, which is fun. Latifun khabir, because this tanween, which is the dhammatan, followed by a kha, which is one of the throat letters. So briefly, we have 6 letters of idhhar halqi, which are hamza ha, ayn ha, ghain kha. Whenever you find one of these letters comes after noon or tanween, you say the noon very clear and you say the tanween very clear. Before we go to more examples in idhhar, there's something worth mentioning, which is idhhar can come in one word or in 2 words, because most of the examples we mentioned were just in 2 words, but idhhar can come as well in one word, such as minha. This noon, minha, we keep it a noon, a very clear noon, because it's followed by a ha, and ha is one of, nice, ha is one of the throat letters, which makes the rule here is idhhar halqi, which means clear. Good job. Such as minha. Okay,